My name is Katie Dodson. I am a medical consultant in the hair restoration industry. Been doing that for 3 years now, and I'm also the face behind Nashville Hair Blogger.
My name is Joe. I'm a medical consultant at PAI Medical. My background is, Lord, I've been in this industry for a long time. I've trained managers, trained consultants, worked with surgeons. Now I get to do what I love the most and just talk to people all day long.
So your hair looks great. Have you had this done?
You know what? I'm a patient as well.
All right.
Yeah, so I've actually had a couple of procedures to restore my hair.
Awesome. Well, we're really excited to get the show started. The idea behind the We Grow Hair Show is, for us to just educate people and help them understand, what's going on. There's lots of information out there. There's, lots of truths and a whole lot of myths. So, our biggest goal here is that we just discuss hair, talk about what we know, talk about what we love, and share a little information, while we're doing it. So I'm going to start with a couple scenarios. I'm really excited about this, but these are just patients that we've worked with and some stories behind them. And, I'm excited to talk about, what solutions were best for them, the reasons why, that kind of thing. So I'm going to start with patient number 1. And so he is actually a 64-year-old man. Mm-hmm. So that, of course, plays a factor into what solutions are best for him. He pretty much has no hair from front hairline all the way back to the crown. It's about 18 centimeters. He's got hair on the back and the sides, a good old horseshoe. Yeah. Everybody loves that. His goal is, just to get as much hair back as possible. And in the donor area, he's not super thick, but he's also not super thin. He's got a good medium, average.
Average donor.
Yeah, absolutely. So that man comes into your office, and what are you guys going to tell him? What are you going to start with?
Would you like me to start, Michael? So we see this guy a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people wait a long time to address their hair loss. Yeah. And there's still things that can be done. There's actually some really cool things that can be done. The largest transplant can cover about 14 centimeters of area.
Yeah.
So what that means is we can reframe a front hairline, fill recessions top, and then you'll just look like you're naturally thinning in the crown, especially at 64.
Right. It's very age appropriate.
That's right, exactly. Then there's cosmetic things that we can do as well, like micropigmentation. Don't know how many people are really familiar with that. It was actually newer to the industry. Mm-hmm. But that's something that you can go through transplanted hair with and make it look even thicker. Or if you just like the shaved head look, you like that convenience, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. I think that's something a lot of people don't realize is an option until, they sit down and talk with someone. Mm-hmm. So, you're looking at 18 centimeters of loss. That's a huge area to cover if you're going through the transplant. So, walk me through what transplant would you recommend and what does that entail? What does that look like?
Yeah, I would go with the multi-unit hair graft, a version of the FUT. Do you want to kind of tell us about that?
Yeah, so I think in this particular case, the patient has a fairly large area to cover. Depending on his goals and expectations, which would be the first thing I would ask him.
Yeah.
What are your goals and expectations? Because sometimes, surprisingly, a patient will go, well, the crown bothers me. And I'm like, what about the first 14 centimeters where there's no hair? What doesn't bother him, right? So I'd want to know, what are your goals and expectations? What are you trying to achieve? Is there something we can do to help you achieve that goal or get close enough to it to where you're happy enough with it? I would lean towards multi-unit hair grafting if the patient wants to cover as much area as possible.
Yeah.
That'd be
I think that 2 biggest takeaways from what you guys just said, one of the biggest things is the procedure is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Just like you said, some people, their crown bothers them more, and you would think, why? Or some people, their front hairline bothers them. It's all perspective and, what that patient wants. So kind of reflecting on a consultation I had yesterday, I had a guy say to me, I don't know what procedure is right for me. And so we were kind of just briefly talking through the beginning stages of which route to go. And he said, well, I don't know what 4,000 hairs covers, and I don't know what 8,000 hairs covers. So that pretty much means nothing to me. So it's huge when you put it in that centimeter kind of measurement, because, in the industry, it's pretty traditional for people to give you a graft count. Well, to most people, it doesn't even make sense because they don't know what a graft count even covers.
Is there 1 hair per graft or 4 hairs per graft?
Right.
Huge difference,
and
right?
some people don't even know to ask that question. So, I think it's huge for us, when when we're meeting with people and when people are trying to decide what solution is best for them, to ask, how much is that going to cover? And just like Joe said, how many hairs are in that graft? Because everybody is different. I think that's huge with our microscopic analysis. So doing a microscopic analysis, you can see what those groupings are like for that person, and that'll determine, how thick their donor area is. And it just makes a big difference because there's so many factors that go into a great hair transplant.
To reach that patient's expectations,
Yeah.
you got to be educated. You got to know exactly what we're doing.
Right.
So, funny story is you were going through your recommendations with the gentleman we were speaking of, it occurred to me that that's the exact same conversation that you and I had when I started out with my hair restoration. And we did the same thing. The first 14 centimeters, we gave that a year. Actually, I went a few years because the crown didn't bother me that much. But I did eventually come back in and fill my crown and went back through the front hairline. And it worked great for me.
Yeah, I find most patients that frontal area is what bothers them the most. Not in every case, obviously. But if they can get some hair there and reframe their face with some hair that they can comb and style and do something with, it is so empowering and encouraging for them. The crown becomes less of an issue for a lot of them. Even for you, as I remember, the crown wasn't that important to start with, but the improvement we made in the frontal area, in the middle area, I think that encouraged you to go ahead and, you know what, let's just go ahead and wrap this up. Let's just add some more hair to the crown and
That's right.
get me where I want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think our multi-unit hair grafting is really unique, which is fun because of the hair sizes. So the amount of hair that we can get in a graft, which is really cool. So, when looking at you specifically, I love to look at your before and afters because a lot of times people aren't always sure how much you can achieve in one procedure, but it was a night and day difference with your transplant, even with just one. A lot of times when I'm in consultation, I'll show photos of your before and after one procedure, and I'll tell your story, and people are like, well, why did he have a second one? And so I think that's really, really big because two procedures is an option for a lot of people, but it's not a requirement because, you looked great after one procedure, so didn't necessarily need a second one, but
It was a want.
Yeah.
It wasn't a need any longer.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about grafts and the way people sell hair, I guess, by grafts.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about a gentleman that has 18 centimeters of loss. If you go to a clinic and they're doing graft counts, basically it's a business model. They're going to divide those grafts up as small as they can to get the largest number of grafts. But in reality, that's not covering an area where there's absolutely no hair.
Right.
We grow hair naturally in follicular groupings of anywhere from 2s to 5s.
Yeah.
The average graft is about 2.1 to 2.5 hairs. So we're already starting at 33-40% thinner, and then that's spread out.
Right.
So the beauty of what we do by doing it by hair is we can leave those grafts together between 4 and 6 hairs.
Yeah.
The larger the graft, the more coverage or thicker look that you actually get from a transplant.
Yeah.
So with this gentleman, the larger graft type in the center would be a lot better option than, say, a small graft of a 1 or 2 hairs.
Yeah. You're naturally going to have, a thinner kind of, more singular hairs in that front hairline. And then the further back you go, your hair is thicker. So I think that's a really important question for people to ask in their consultation. Because, it's such a detailed procedure. And, if you don't know what to ask, you're kind of sitting there like, well, I hope they know what they're doing, right?
Yeah, it starts with expectations.
Yeah.
And that really, to me, that's where everything pivots. Because for me, sometimes I realize early in the conversation that their expectation is not meetable.
Yeah.
So I have to spend the next few minutes helping them understand what is achievable.
Yeah.
And what can be done. And if they are comfortable with that, then they should move forward. If they're not, they shouldn't do any surgery.
I agree.
And I'll defer those patients or refer them to a place that does maybe non-surgical, like a hair piece or hair system, if they want full coverage. There's a lot that goes with that. Obviously, there's a lot of maintenance and other things that can come with it. But most of the time when I bring that up, patients are like, oh, no, I don't want that. I'd rather have less hair and it be my own than something that's not my own.
Yeah.
But there's that option that we can discuss with them.
All right, guys, so we covered a lot today. This has been really, really fun. We're looking forward to bringing more information in the future. Please reach out to us if you have any questions or anything. We'll be happy to talk about